guys, today I want to tell you about the saving the Maya rainforest. Deep in the forest, biologist Al McKay and I are bouncing the truck along a recently abandoned logging road. Our eyes scanning the brush. This morning we have already seen a fox lolling on the sun and being chased by an oculated turkey, but what we are both longing for is a jaguar. We are on the eastern edge of the 37 million acre Selva Maya, the largest swath of tropical rainforest in the Americas north of the Amazon, which stretches across Belize, Guatemala, and Mexico. The Selva Maya boasts more than 400 species of birds and 200 species of trees, as well as the largest population of jaguars in Central America. Still, in the 20 plus years that Kai, a stalwart of the Belize conservation scene, has been visiting this mecca of biodiversity. She has encountered the elusive cat just 4 times, but we have been hearing reports of sightings in the local area. In the Belize Maya forest, a team led by Virginia Tech wildlife sciences prof. Marcella Kelly is studying one of the first top predators, the jaguar, with project's leader David Hugo and graduate student Debbie McPhail. She's using camera traps to understand the movements of these big cats. Biologist Al McKay has long had a hand in environmental protection in Belize. In 2010, she founded the University of Belize Environmental Research Institute to train the next generation of natural resource managers. Now she is the managing director of the Belize Maya Forest Trust. You can guarantee jaguars, Kay says in her lyrical accent as we set off earlier this morning. But if you spend a week here, your chances are very high. It is Julie and the Nature Conservancy and its partners recently closed a $76.5 million deal to protect 236,000 acres of rainforest here, known as the Belize Maya Forest. Together with the neighboring Rio Bravo Conservation and Management Area, which TNC helped establish in 1988. The forest will ensure an 11 million acre network of protected land that spans an area roughly the size of Vermont and New Hampshire combined, amounting to almost a third of the entire Selva Maya. Wildlife scientist Marcella Kelly is a professor at Virginia Tech. She monitors jaguars' population with camera traps in the Selva Maya, which has the largest population of jaguars in Central America. Yet the predators are rarely seen. With the most recent deal, Belizeans have boosted their total protected land area to nearly 40%. Tropical forests serve as valuable carbon reserves, potentially representing up to a quarter of a climate mitigation needed globally by 2030 under the Paris Agreement. At a local level, this forest contains three major watersheds, supplying the country with about a third of its drinking water and a quarter of its water for irrigation. Hay has long had a hand in environmental protection in Belize. In 2010, she so founded the University of Belize Environmental Research Institute to train the next generation of natural resource managers. Now she will lead the newly created Belize Maya Forest Trust, which will manage this massive new protected area. The Selva Maya is the largest swath of tropical rainforest in the Americas north of the Amazon, stretching across Belize, Guatemala, and Mexico. It's home to more than 200 species of trees, via this cat-eyed snake, diverse red-eyed tree frog. TNC has a 30-year history of working in Belize to make sure there is a balance between people and the environment, says Julia Robinson, director of TNC's Belize program. Efforts have focused on building the capacity of local groups to sustainably manage their resources. Suddenly, it happens. Watching the road ahead of us, I'm the first one to see it, the neck. Even in broad daylight, the spots are not the first thing you notice on a jaguar. It's that neck, thick as a wrestler's. I stop the truck. The stout predator stands there broadside to us, glaring. The creature then turns and saunters down the road. I ease off the breakers and let the truck roll forward, hoping for a closer look. The jaguar crans its head around for one last stare down before vanishing into the trees. Even as we lose sight of the big cat, we know something important is happening in the forest here. Trinidad wildlife. Forests in Belize were being lost at the rate of nearly 1% per year. Illegal logging, ranching, and farming was occurring even inside the country's network of protected areas. This was threatening wildlife like pumas. Only a few years ago, it seemed likely that this remarkable place would be destroyed. Unlike the Maya Mountain Massif in the southern part of the country, which is safeguarded by a network of national parks and reserves, forests elsewhere largely remained in private hands. Some forests neighboring the Maya forest were disappearing at an alarming rate. But one landholder here proved to be a surprising ally. Mitchell Bowen runs the business holding of the Bowen family, which ranks among the largest landowners in the country. The family immigrated from England 8 generations ago and gradually acquired a sweeping portfolio of enterprises ranging from Belize's largest brewery and a Coca-Cola bottling franchise to cattle and timber holdings. When the family's latter-day patriarch Barry Bowen died in a plane crash in 2010, Michael inherited control of the sprawling business, including the Chin Lodge and neighboring ranch. Many privately owned forests were at risk of being destroyed. When Changqing Lodge in the heart of the Belize Maya forest was up for sale, conservation groups came up with a plan to purchase the property and ensure that it could be properly managed long into the future. Um, it was a hobby farm for my dad. Bowen says one morning in the Belize City headquarters of Bowen Ltd. Clad in skinny jeans and bright yellow sneakers. Michael says he grew up in Miami, and while he had fond memories of spending time with his father out in the rainforest. He was a city kid through and through. Sustainability, sustainability mattered to him in theory, but nature lover he was not, at least not yet. After taking the helm as CEO, the business-minded son was forced to make some hard decisions to streamline the company and keep all its pieces together. Reluctantly, he decided to sell off most of its landholdings, but he kept the plot called Galoon Jug, on which the Chanchin Lodge sits, in the heart of the Belize Maya forest. Within the family, the decision was an emotional one, but Bowen felt that timberland would be in good hands with a new owner, a US-based sustainable logging company called the Forestland Group. The largest trees in the Belize Maya forest rise some 80 feet or more into the air. As their verdant canopy absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, their trunks swell, sequestering it in their hardwood. The average tropical tree can soak up approximately 50 pounds of carbon per year. Once mature, the Belize Maya forest will sequester more than 10 million tons of carbon. If this land were cleared for farms or ranchers, much of that carbon will be released again. But thanks to the landmark deal secured between the Nature Conservancy and the Belize government, this forest will be preserved in perpetuity. Once the carbon stocks in the forest are fully assessed and validated by a third party, they can be sold as credits on the international carbon market to businesses and other organizations to offset their emissions. On just a small portion of the neighboring Rio Bravo conservation and management area, a carbon finance project funded a $2.5 million conservation endowment and kept more than 1.9 million tons of carbon dioxide from entering the atmosphere over 8 years. Under TNC's agreement with the government, the sale of carbon credits at this new preserve will cover half the purchase of the land and fund $15 million endowment to manage the forest into the future. Those credits are our ticket to long-lasting conservation, says El McKay, the head of the Belize Maya Forest Trust. You cannot have long-lasting conservation without sustainable finance. Bowen, however, didn't anticipate the level of threat that the land now faced. Forests in Belize were being lost at the rate of nearly 1% per year, and illegal logging, ranching, and farming was occurring even inside the country's network of protected areas. And while the Forest Land Group has been had been a responsible steward of the forests on its land, it put the property up for sale again 8 years after purchasing it. The likely buyers, Bowen knew, would be the neighboring Mennonite community. There are approximately 12,000 Mennonites living in Belize, and they are among the most prosperous farmers in the region, using modern equipment and engaging in large-scale industrial agriculture. Bowen had already seen tens of thousands of acres of forest in Belize, cleared to make way for rows of corn and soybeans, and he feared that Changching might become just an island of forest in sea of farmland. And while Belize's agriculture sector has provided critical food, security, and economic benefits during the pandemic, those benefits have come at a cost. In 2014, Bowen began talking with former U.S. Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson and his wife, Wendy, who were longtime visitors to Changching. Both were committed conservationists and former members of TNC's global board of directors. Over the next 5 years, a coalition of more than a dozen conservation groups and foundations banded together, including TNC, the Paulsons, Bobolink Foundation, the Rainforest Trust, and the Weiss Foundation. They needed to come up with a strategy not only to purchase the property, but also to ensure that it could be properly managed long into the future by working with local partners like Bowen and the University of Belize Environmental Research Institute. Over the course of 2020, the pandemic and resulting travel restrictions stifled the tourism focused Belizean economy. By that December, however, the conservation groups had secured the funds to buy the land. Then came a deal with the Belizean government that would allow the Belize Maya Forest Trust to sell carbon credits to cover half of the property's purchase cost. And more important, establish an endowment to support sustainable management of the forest. The government's support for the deal at a time when the country economy has been hit hard signals a recognition that nature must be a part of the country's sustainable development. It was a really difficult year for the world, says TNC's Jelly Robinson. Then we just had this huge win. A couple days after my Jaguar sighting with Kay, I meet up with Jeff Parrish, TNC's Global Managing Director for Nature Protection, who came from the United States to see the Belize Maya Forest. we hike up the entry steps to La Milfa, a mined archaeological site in the Rio Bravo Conservation. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Have a nice day and goodbye.